What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Free Rider YouTube channel. Join me today as I take a trip around Des Moines, Iowa, and hopefully I don't get rained on. Currently it is sprinkling just a little bit, as you can probably tell. Right now I'm on my way into town using one of my favorite routes. This city is interesting in the fact that it has a lot of dry cutoffs. So you've got wide open country or semi-country areas, and then boom, right into the city. It's something that I've never seen before, but something that I can appreciate about this place. When you think of city, normally you think of busy commuted areas, and it can get that way at times, primarily around rush hour, but the entire city and the surrounding rural towns seem to have pretty abrupt cutoffs to traffic and when people are in their homes and away for the night. Today we're going to take a tour a little bit around the city, show you guys some of what Des Moines is all about. We're coming up on some bike trails here on my right. Des Moines, surprisingly enough to me, when I moved here, right over here, was a place that has a surprising amount of bicycling available to the residents. Bike trails, walking trails. And when I say biking and walking trails, I'm not talking just the casual everyday trails. There are some dedicated areas within city limits that are actually, I'll say, somewhat of a challenge course for mountain bikes and people with maybe e-bikes that they can go visit and check out. Now, one thing I think you'll find if you ever visit the city of Des Moines is just how easy it is to travel. The roads are quite easy to understand. Everything seems to be just a big square, and you can't really get lost because everything pretty much loops around. Now, if you guys are watching this video, it's probably because you're a motorcycle enthusiast as well. A little bit of history on Des Moines. On my right here is the old location of Jarvis Honda we just passed by. Jarvis Honda was a long-time motorcycle dealership for the city that was kind of under the umbrella of a larger corporation, the same company that actually is in control of John Deere, which is the Van Wall Corporation. And they took Jarvis Honda and a few other dealerships in the surrounding areas, merged them into one big one, which is now located in Altoona, Iowa. What up, brethren? Man, these clouds do not look good. Please, oh please, hold out for me. Now, as we continue to make our way into the city, I do want to point out to you guys that something I do like to do is promote safe riding. I like to have fun, just like all of you guys who are riding, otherwise you probably wouldn't be on a motorcycle. But I really do care a lot about smart riding choices, the ability to have traffic insight, looking ahead into certain situations, and lane positioning. Lane positioning is a huge one. Being able to know that you're in the line of sight of another car, regardless of where you are in the road. And that is always going to be important, but I'll say especially when in city conditions. As you guys continue to watch my videos and kind of watch the way I ride, like I said, you'll know that I do like to have fun, and I may not always make the best judgment call, but for the most part I do like to try and be a smart and safe rider. And then when the time calls to have fun, I like to, you know, let the wild and crazy out. If you're a motorcyclist who doesn't have a hyperflash brake light outfitted on your bike, one thing that I've grown accustomed to over time is just tapping my rear brake with my lever to make it flash, just as a little extra precaution to ensure that the cars behind me know that I stopped. In doing that over the last, I would say, several years, I've noticed that for the most part people tend to give me more distance when they stop. And again, lane position is extremely important when talking about that as well. You do not want to be a rider who gets rear-ended. It can be challenging to be on a motorcycle and not sound like a hypocrite at times, because the power that motorcycles typically tend to have, or mainly just acceleration, even if your bike is not super high powered, is usually incomprehensible in comparison to most vehicles, not to mention the level of nimbleness that you have and ability to get yourself either out of or into situations. I will say on average that I do like to try and be a little bit faster than traffic, just because it seems like me as the rider has more control of where I position myself in the lane. Like I said, I want to be sure that vehicles in front of me can see me and know where I am in relation to them. And if you're a little bit faster than traffic, it can kind of help, I guess you could say, feel like you have a little bit more control over a situation. Like this car, for example, I know seems to be impatient, and I want to get out of their blind spot. On the brakes, flashing my brakes, letting people know that I'm stopping. People like that tend to want to whip over because they see that you're fast and they want to be in your lane. Speaking of traffic patterns, I do have to shout out my man Dan the fireman. Love watching his videos. His videos give young and old riders, new, rookie, and veteran riders good perspective on some of the things that can happen in the real world, as he comments on people's riding situations, whether it be an accident, close call, or whatever. So if you haven't checked him out, check out Dan the fireman. So currently we're basically, I'll say, coming up into the west side of Des Moines. Des Moines is renowned for a lot of the shopping, high-end homes, as well as scenic areas like the Des Moines River, which we are going over currently. We're going to go ahead and take a left. This is one of the popular bridges in Des Moines going over the river. If we kept going straight, we'd come up on the airport. So here we are, Des Moines, Iowa. Excuse me, Raccoon River. Haven't lived here too long. Still learning a lot of stuff about this place. I'm not usually on this end of town very much. Somebody just honk at me? So the main heart of the city is on my left, while the cutoff is essentially on the right. If we go to the right, we're going to hit the south side of Des Moines, going to towns like Indianola, Norwalk. And then if we keep going east here, we would be coming up into Altoona. So it's a pretty tight knitting. We'll go ahead and turn left here. So in front of me is the Nationwide parking garage, which I've been in a couple times. If you go inside the parking garage, it's usually pretty empty, and the view from the top of the building tends to be pretty nice. So as I'm sure you can already see, things are pretty mellow over here. I'm just looking around. It's granted Sunday, but there's like no traffic, and this is kind of how it usually is. As we come into downtown, I am infatuated with the smell of delicious food and barbecue. That is one thing that Des Moines is not short of: restaurants. A lot of construction around here. I guess that kind of is the same for just about every city. Now as we come up on the east side of town, we are approaching the state's Capitol building. Hopefully the footage isn't too terrible, but we have been getting pelted with rain this year. Absolutely pelted. So there it is, State Capitol building. Now over there on my left, the city a few years ago, I think it was a few years ago, built a skate park for the residents to do BMX skateboarding. Now this strip that we're on too, I'm not necessarily sure of the name of it, but we are in some of downtown's most popular restaurants, which is right over here by the Capitol building. A lot of boutique shops, a lot of nice restaurants, and for the local college towns, Iowa's got the Hawkeyes, the Cyclones, and then not too far from here is the DMAC Community College, which tends to have a lot of students migrating into the city for good food and lots of partying. Now everything that you guys just saw pretty much sums up Des Moines for the most part. I could take rounds going up and down the streets, but it's really a lot of the same stuff. These bridges that are located up and down the interstate that goes through here, which is the merging point of I-80 and I-35, they call it 235. These bridges, like the one I'm going over, is kind of a marker point letting you know that you're leaving the city. And at the moment we're heading north, which seems to be where some of the other highly populated attractions for people tend to be. There's a lot of stuff here on the north side, and then again they've got main roads that cut east and west. You've got Urbandale, Grimes, Johnston to the west, and then Altoona, Bondurant to the east. So guys, I think that's going to conclude today's video. As the rain continues to get worse, I'm not really too sure there's going to be much else I'm going to be able to show you today. So if you guys haven't already, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Would greatly appreciate that. That helps out the channel a whole bunch. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.